Okay, hey guys, this is Jack from Viper, and today I'm here with Tom from AWeber. AWeber is a email service provider that Viper integrates with. They do a great job at sending out emails, organizing your email lists, and nurturing those leads into conversions. So today I wanted to jump on the phone with Tom and sort of go through a bunch of questions that you might be having as a business owner. In one, how to obviously nurture your leads, what you should be putting in your emails, how you should be organizing your accounts, and all that sort of stuff. So this happens after you've collected your leads, and they handle that all that organization and email send outs. So Tom, how are you doing?
Great. Thank you so much for having me. This is awesome.
Yeah, no problem. Let's start off with kind of like a bit of background of like, what you do over at AWeber, what your experiences is with email marketing and that sort of stuff. And then we can jump into some juicy questions.
Yeah, that's perfect. So my name is Tom Tate. I am the product marketing manager here at AWeber. And what that means is whenever we release new products, we're always trying to innovate and release new things. My main role is to kind of take that product and go to market, right? So anybody who doesn't know about AWeber, my goal is to help you learn all about us and how we can help you grow your business. But we also have over 90,000 customers, which is amazing. It's crazy. And one of the exciting parts of my role is to actually educate our customers on new features and existing features to help you make the most out of AWeber and really grow your business by way of email marketing, by way of connecting with your fans, your audience, your leads, your current customers through email, which is, as you know, I'm sure, is such a powerful channel and such a great way to make that connection. So my experience with email, I do a lot of it at AWeber. We are a 20-year-old company, so we have a lot of large email lists that we've been building over the years. So I have the experience of sending to really large lists, but I also spin up a lot of different side projects and side gigs where I have small lists, so I have, experience starting from scratch, starting at 0 subscribers. And I know how challenging it can be to grow that list. But then also I work with all of our customers. So I learned from some of the best, some of the best email marketers by way of just working really closely with people who are doing awesome things.
Yeah, that's awesome, because I know AWeber was, one of the OGs. They were around, before email was cool. and the progression that you guys have had is just insane. Like, the features you've added, the rebranding you've kind of done. You've really kept up with the times in sort of like, building in extra features to help, people use email as a great marketing tool. So I'm going to squeeze some of that knowledge out of you today. I've got a bunch of questions here that I'm going to roll through that are going to be really useful if you are collecting email leads and you're looking to turn those email leads into customers. So I'm going to start off with something a little bit basic just to get warmed up. I'm going to be like, what is the typical structure that someone should set up in their account? So usually you have sequences and all that sort of stuff. You can just kind of go over what a good sort of setup of an email account looks like.
Yeah, definitely. So I always recommend, doing what is best for you. So at AWeber, you can have as many lists, email subscriber lists as you want. And within those lists, you can structure your subscribers using what we call tags. So if you want to segment or group your subscribers based on tags, let's say you have a food blog, you might want to start tagging subscribers. This person took my 30-day smoothie challenge, or this person is in gluten-free recipes. This person is a vegetarian. You can start to group your subscribers by tags, which is really helpful. There's a couple different ways that you can do that, but they would all go onto your main list, your food blog list. But one of the value of having the ability to do multiple lists is maybe you're a food blogger, but then you decide that you're going to create some physical product that you're going to sell, and you're going to sell that through maybe a Shopify store or something else. And you might want those customers to be on a completely separate list, right? Maybe it's loosely related to your food blog, but it's a different entity, right? So you might want to actually separate the two. Or maybe you're a food blogger who decides you're going to create a product for pets, right? And then they're completely separate, right? So you want to kind of separate those two lists. So you can do that. In terms of structuring your account after the leads are added, I always recommend, you have to have some base level of email automation.
Yeah.
It's so easy to set up. So at the very least, if you don't want to put a ton of work into it, at least have a really strong welcome email. You don't want to just leave your new subscribers hanging with no response. So a really strong welcome email. And then you can continue to build on that. So if you want to add an email a week, and have that all be automated, I've seen customers with really strong, 26, 27 email sequences that keeps the relationship building over the course of half a year, and all of that becomes automated because you're adding some of your best content, your best evergreen content onto your email sequence.
Yeah, that's super important. That's one of I would say one of our top acquisition channels too, the email list. And you build relationships with your customers or potential customers, and that is really what converts people, when you sort of have that personal touch with them and you can deliver them great content before asking for anything in return. So that's great on how to organize leads and stuff. Just a quick summary of like, when should you choose to use a tag and when should you choose to use a list? So I know a lot of people get confused with this. I know it's different in all ESPs and all that sort of stuff. I know AWeber has both. When do you sort of know when you should use one or the other?
Yeah, that's a great question. So let's say, just sticking with a food blog analogy, because I think it's easy for people to kind of wrap their heads around it.
Yep.
Let's say you have your food blog and you have a weekly newsletter, like a broadcast email. So a broadcast newsletter, that wouldn't be an automated email. That's part of a sequence. That's something that you're manually doing, right? So you might have different lead magnets or different incentives for people to join your email list, right? So you might run a Facebook ad to a landing page for a 30-day challenge. But ultimately, you want that person to be on the newsletter list as well, right? So after that person completes the challenge or after that person is added to the list, you still want to continue to send them the newsletter content, right? So if they opt in for that, you would add them to your newsletter list and tag them 30-day challenge. And then that tag will kick off the specific automated campaign for the challenge, right? If somebody opted into a different lead magnet, let's say it was a cookbook or a recipe book, you would do the same thing where you would have a form. That form would be associated with the recipe book tag. You would add them to the main list, but you would tag them recipe book, and that tag would trigger the automated sequence that would deliver maybe the PDF or the digital recipe book, and then also maybe drip out a few more emails for an upsell product or something else, right? So that's where I would recommend kind of, start with your main list where you're going to have some baseline automation, welcome email, maybe a longer sequence. But then you can add on to that with different incentives, or, most people call them lead magnets, but really it's just a separate incentive to join your list. And then you can set up rules to say like, hey, if they came in through this form or this landing page, send them this sequence, but don't send them this other sequence, because you don't want to oversend, right? So don't send them the main autoresponder or the main automated sequence. Just send them the one for the recipe book that they came in on, right? So you can set up these if this then that type of rules in AWeber that will allow you to make sure you're not blasting your subscribers with way too many emails.
Yeah, so it sounds like tags are probably more flexible than lists.
For sure. Yep.
So yeah, definitely, we use a lot of tags, and it's, great for segmenting leads and customers. Do you also suggest tagging leads and customers with tags, or separating on lists? So I know it's really important to exclude customers from all your lead campaigns once they're converted to a customer, for example, because you want to make sure you're changing that messaging from, hey, this is why you should sign up, to, hey, thanks for signing up. Here are all the cool benefits and features.
Yeah, and that's a great point. So the way that we do that now is we have a feature called click automations. So if a customer clicks on a specific link, you can add or remove a tag. So it's actually pretty convenient to continue to sort of profile that lead or profile that prospect as they're interacting with your content. So even as they're getting these automated emails, if they're clicking on links to say, hey, I'm interested in this particular type of product, or I'm interested in this particular content topic, you can tag them so that you can start to build up a sharper profile. You can even do the branching automation, right? Where you can say if someone clicks on this link, take them out of this campaign and add them to a different campaign, which is really helpful to get really targeted. It's going to be more work for you to set that up. But if you want to get more advanced with your funnel, your email nurturing funnel, you can do that too. And then finally, you can make a decision. You know, if somebody becomes a customer, we have a lot of AWeber users who do this. They like their prospects and customers on 2 separate lists. So we have an automation rule that you can set to say if you maybe purchase a product or if you convert to this specific list, you can be added to a customer list, and then we'll automatically remove you from the prospect list. So that's where lists can be helpful if you want to keep your prospects and customers completely separate.
Yeah, I would definitely suggest going with the lead list and the customer list, because it just keeps it way easier. And then using those tags to kind of like segment the leads that are coming in. You can also use those tags on the back end to differentiate like different models or purchases or whatever it may be, if you have like different categories, that sort of thing. But yeah, all of that is super important. I love the automation stuff. You know, those clicks to add and remove tags is golden. Definitely use those. Love them. Next question was, so what tactics can people use to get better open rates on their email? So I know there's so many different things that people say, hey, do this, add emojis, no, blah, blah, blah. What do you see as the, you know, best tactics for getting better open rates out of, you know, the hundreds of thousands of emails that you probably see go out?
Yeah, so that's a great question. And it's one of those questions where every marketer probably gives you the really crummy answer of it depends, right? Because it's going to depend on your audience and your offers, your content, your niche, right? What is your actual focus? And like the one thing that I can absolutely recommend is split testing, right? So test your emails, and you don't have to have thousands and thousands and thousands of subscribers to run effective tests, right? You could have 100 subscribers and still get decent results back from running a split test. But a few of the things that I would absolutely recommend testing is the length of your subject line.
Okay.
So I read a recent study from, I think it was SendGrid, where they found that 4-word subject lines performed really well. And I think most people really, they stretch those subject lines pretty long, right? So if you consider that most of your subscribers might be engaging on a mobile device, keeping your subject line down to maybe 4 to 6 words, that could be a really effective test for you to run to see if you can increase that open rate. The other thing that I definitely recommend testing, only because a lot of people don't take advantage of this, is the pre-header text. And the pre-header text is just that snippet of almost preview text right after the subject line. So you'll typically see it in Gmail or on your mobile device. You'll kind of see your main subject line, and then you'll see a short snippet of text. If you don't add a custom pre-header text, it's just going to grab the first line of text from the email, which might not be that enticing. So there's an opportunity for you to really play with the language on your pre-header text, and then maybe also do some interplay with how that interacts with your actual subject line. So if you have a really short question in the subject line, your pre-header text might be something like, it might not be what you think, you know? So then it creates intrigue, right? Intrigue in the subject line and the pre-header text playing together, which might encourage more people to open. Emojis are an interesting test. You know, some people, emojis are one of those things I think where, you know, you can use them and you might see a boost in opens, but if you keep using them, it's just going to eventually level out or flatline. People will get used to seeing them from you specifically. I've been testing emojis in the pre-header text, which is actually kind of interesting too, because it sits outside of the subject line, but it's still there in view. So that's another fun thing to test. And then the other thing that I would recommend is the from name, right? So if I send an email for and we actually we're running this test now to get really good data. If I send an email for a webinar invite and it says Tom Tate as the from name, somebody might have no idea who I am, you know? If I send the same email and the from name is AWeber, somebody might just say, oh, another email from AWeber, and choose not to open it, right? Because it might be wrong place, wrong time for them, right? Like they might not be interested in a new feature announcement or, you know, or something like that, right? if I said Tom from AWeber,
Yeah.
I'm combining the two, right? So I'm sending a personal note. So it feels like a personal note from me to you, but I have AWeber in the from name so that it's a recognizable brand, right? So they signed up for AWeber at some point, so they recognize us in their inbox. But combining both the personal, the first name, and then also your organization could be really, really helpful, right? So if you send an email, Jack from VYPER, or Jack at VYPER, you might see a better open rate than just VYPER.
Yeah.
So that's a good test as well.
Yeah, 100% agree with that. We definitely swapped over to making the from a little bit more personal. We're a huge offender of the subject lines that are too long. It's really, really hard to cram it in. But yeah, we have found that emojis have also worked quite well for us if you use them, on and off. You can't obviously create your sequences and have every single email have an emoji, but we do find that touch of color, I think, differentiates you in an inbox where it's just like mostly text. I'm still surprised that more people don't use emojis, but that's a great tip about putting it in that pre-header text. Because, it's not obviously right in your face, but it's still going to add that color to the inbox. It's going to draw attention to it. Yeah, so great tips there for open rates. Next question was, okay, once I get someone to open my email, how do I kind of warm up or nurture a lead? I know there's different tactics. Some people saying like, hey, you only have one shot, try and convert them in the first email. Or other people saying like, no, you need to, build that relationship, provide value first. Or what do you usually recommend? And I know it's probably going to be a little bit different per industry, but let's, maybe stick with the food blogger, and then maybe an e-commerce store or something.
Yeah. So I think one of the things that you can definitely do is you can test out with that first email. If you're going to try to convert them to be a paying customer, whatever your paid product is, surprise and delight them with an attractive offer, right? So, as a bonus for signing up for my email list, here's 20% off, and here's, this is normally $199 and then it's got the slash through it. And now for you, it's $99, so I think if you're going to do that and you're going to test that, just understand that person might have just been introduced to you and your brand, right? So they might not be ready to buy from you. They don't know you. They don't know your content. There's trust that you have to build up. And that's one of the beautiful things about automated emails is you can continue to provide value and build up this relationship that's built on, I'm sending you trustworthy content that's going to improve your life in some way. So, ultimately, I would say continue to provide a little bit more value before you go in for the sale. But you're right. Like a lot of people do say, your welcome email is going to be the highest open rate in your automated sequence. That's typically always the case. So you have the most attention in that email. So if you do have an attractive offer and you have an attractive product that's going to provide value in someone's life, I would say make the pitch if you feel comfortable doing it. I wouldn't make that the whole email, like I would focus on welcoming them into your ecosystem. And then, by the way, because you're here, I want to just thank you and offer you 20% off this paid product. It's a limited offer, check it out. If not, that's fine. And just kind of be a little bit more passive about it than beating a new subscriber over the head with a big offer. And especially if it's a high price product, if it's like an online course or some type of thing that's, $8.99, it's really hard to expect somebody to take that leap right away. So that would be my recommendation. And obviously there are plenty of schools of thought, and we've seen success on both ends. We've seen people successfully do it. So it's not that it's impossible. It's just, I would wait until after you provide a little bit more content. Webinars can be really effective. So if you drip out a little bit of content and then invite somebody to a webinar, it could be a pre-recorded webinar. So like an evergreen webinar at some point in your funnel, that webinar could be the vehicle for your offer. And really the pitch is to get people to register and attend the webinar. So that could be another good thing, especially if you have a high ticket offer.
Yeah, well, I think, a tactic that I see a lot of marketers using is, you get onto the email list through any of the lead magnets, you get pitched to join the webinar where you get a bit of value, learn a little bit about whatever that person's selling. and then the pitch is actually within the webinar and in the follow-up emails. So, you know, if you do have that higher price product, I think that's definitely a good strategy to go with. I think e-commerce, we've worked with a lot of e-commerce stores and that sort of thing. And you can find with e-commerce, you can actually, I think, ask for a sale earlier on if the price point is, you know, lower, like under $100 or something.
Sure.
Anything over $100, it starts to get a little bit of a big ask from the first email. But yeah, awesome tips there. Next question I wanted to ask you about was deliverability. I know this is always a bit of a gray area. You're not really sure, you know, if your emails are going to the right inbox, if they're going to the promotions folder, if they're going to spam, that sort of thing. What are the kind of the best practices for keeping your emails like going to the main inbox, or how to even just stay out of the spam folder?
Yeah, definitely. And I think, you know, it's one of those things, as you mentioned, it's a bit of a black box. You know, there are definitely things that we know you shouldn't do. And it's always changing. So similar to SEO, it's one of those things that's constantly iterating over time, right? So spam filters are always being updated to try to catch things that are malicious. So I would definitely recommend maintaining a healthy list is number one. So if you purchase a list, we recommend never purchasing a list, right? Because if you purchase a list, you know, you are likely to be hit with spam traps, you know, and you're emailing people who did not give you specific permission to send them emails, right? So email is very much a form of permission-based marketing, you know, so someone is opting in, they're giving you consent to send you emails. I'm sure you remember, you know, not too far in the past, GDPR, you know, we saw all these emails come out about GDPR and updating your privacy policy. And, you know, one of the big things about GDPR that we appreciate and we respect as email marketers is it's protecting our subscribers. You know, it's protecting them from receiving email from companies or brands or people that they didn't give permission to send them email, right? So I would say start with, you know, just healthy list growth practices. And I think if you're going to do viral contests or giveaways, that can be really helpful in growing your list, right? And I would love to hear your best practices on that, because I always recommend, like, if you're going to be emailing about, you know, productivity tips, or if you're going to email about, you know, how to manage your day, your work day. If you give away a $200 Amazon card, you're going to be attracting everybody, you know, like not necessarily people who care about, you know, your topic or your products or things like that. Right.
Yeah.
But whereas if your giveaway is based around, like, you know, I'm going to give away the 10 best productivity books ever written, you know, you're going to be attracting much more people who are interested in your topics. Right. So number one is, you know, really healthy list growth practices where you're attracting people who want to hear from you repeatedly, you know, not just one and done, but just over time. Right. And then as people are not engaging with your email list, you can unsubscribe them. You know, that's an okay thing to do. I know it's scary for a lot of marketers to like say like, oh, you know, here's 100 people who haven't opened a single email in 6 months, you know, and it's hard for us to unsubscribe them. But at the end of the day, it improves the visibility and the deliverability of our emails if we do that, right? So I think that it is important to, you know, have a process by which you try to clean up your lists every once in a while of people who don't engage. And you don't necessarily have to just automatically unsubscribe them. You can try to re-engage them with re-engagement campaigns, which is a totally different topic that we could talk about. But there are different ways to do that.
Yeah.
And then the other thing too with deliverability is just be mindful of you know, things that might feel spammy, right? So like, you know, there are trigger words. There's not a definitive list of trigger words, you know, but if you use certain words, like you are likely to
free.
Yeah, like, well, you know, free is an interesting one, you know, because we see mixed results, but there are definitely words that pop up. We found that using link shorteners can sometimes hurt your deliverability. So like if you use a bit.ly link, or like a Google link shortener, you can sometimes run into some issues because you're basically at that point you're you're obfuscating the URL that your audience is going to click on, right? And not every provider appreciates that, because they want transparency around what links you're displaying, and then the destination that you're sending your subscribers, right? So you're not trying to trick somebody into clicking a link. So sometimes those can be harmful for your deliverability. Heavy emails, so like heavy HTML emails, like big, like a lot of images, a lot of design, really heavy file size, GIFs. Those types of things could impact your deliverability, but they're actually more likely to impact your inbox placement. So if your email looks like a very branded promotional email, it's likely that it's going to be in the branded promotions tab, along with all the other brands that are in there. Whereas if you send a text only plain style personal note email, looks like, I just sent you an email in Gmail. Those types of emails are more likely to end up in your primary Gmail tab. So that's a little different than deliverability. We typically talk about that as inbox placement, so it's hitting the inbox, but where in the inbox is it hitting? If it's not in spam. So I kind of jumped around all over the place because there's so much we could talk about there, but hopefully that gives some tips for anybody who's viewing, try how to think about that.
Yeah. And definitely when it comes back to the acquisition of those leads, you definitely, as you were saying, you definitely want to have it, super high quality leads. So as you're saying with giveaways and stuff, you definitely want to have a prize that's going to attract your potential customer only. Gift cards and stuff works great for getting, thousands of emails, but when you go to convert those people, you're going to have a pretty tough time. So yeah, definitely having that. And the other thing is making sure that when people opt into your lists, that one, you're kind of like filtering them out, as you were saying. At some extremes, you can also ask for the double opt-in. So that they're, 100% interested in it, but that's going to definitely significantly reduce the amount. But if you are having issues with deliverability, it's, a good idea to try and implement that, we've found. Because, if someone's not willing to opt in twice, then, they're probably not going to open your emails anyway, a few months down the line if you're selling a really high ticket price item or something.
Yeah. And to add to that too, it doesn't hurt to start with double opt-in, to start with confirmed opt-in, and just keep a really close eye on that actual, full confirmation rate, right? So if you do notice that, a lot of people aren't actually going and hitting the confirmation email and confirming their email address, then maybe you want to consider switching it to single and then testing. But it doesn't hurt to start with double opt-in, because if you do have double opt-in on and you notice that people are actually going through and confirming at a high rate, you're only going to end up with a healthier list and healthier deliverability. So that's definitely something to consider for sure.
Yeah, and we usually clean our list maybe like once a quarter or something. What's the general time frame that you usually suggest?
Yeah, like 3 months. I think 3 months is a really good, 3 to 4 months is a good opportunity just to go in and make it a regular thing. If you're sending a lot of email and you're acquiring a ton of subscribers, you might want to increase that frequency. But just going through and just taking a close look at who's actually opening your messages. And that's a really easy thing to run in AWeber, but it's likely easy in a lot of email providers, just to be able to go in and see who's actually engaging. And then you can make a decision if you want to unsubscribe them or reach out to them with a segmented email campaign to say, hey, I noticed you haven't clicked in a long time, or you haven't opened my messages. I just want to make sure you still want to receive my email. And that's a really respectful thing to get into. You can give them a special offer to try to entice them to stick around or, purchase at that point. The return rate on that might be pretty low, but what you're doing is you're extending the life of that relationship a bit.
Yeah. And so when you are setting up that kind of segment or sequence for re-engagement, at what point do you kind of realize, hey, this person's not really engaging anymore? I should send them or push them into the re-engagement. And if they don't respond to that, then obviously clean them. How long, or what's the kind of general sort of metrics you set for that type of segment, I suppose?
I think that's going to depend a lot on your frequency, right? So if you send a weekly newsletter, or if you send once every 2 weeks, and you notice somebody drops off completely for like 60 days, I would say like that's a good cutoff point. Like I've been sending repeatedly at a pretty regular schedule, and then 60 days went by and you haven't opened up anything.
Yeah.
Like 60 days is a good mark. I've seen people recommend 30 days. I think that's uh, a little too short for my own tastes, right? But anywhere from 30 to 90 days, I think would be a good window.
Mhm.
So I would say maybe start at 60 days and just kind of run that query and just see how many subscribers are turning up as kind of non-engaged subscribers at that point.
Yeah, and if you're finding a lot of people are getting into that segment of not even opening or clicking, you might actually have an issue with your deliverability. So you might want to think about, obviously looking into tactics on improving that deliverability. Because yeah, it is a shame if you spend so much time and effort acquiring all these emails and they obviously go into a folder that nobody ever sees. But no, great tips there on deliverability. I think I'm just going to wrap it up with this last question about, where people can find out more about AWeber, other stuff about email marketing, that sort of thing. I know you guys have some great content floating around. Where can people go to learn more about, one, AWeber, and two, email marketing best practices, that sort of stuff?
Yeah, definitely. So aweber.com, AWeber. So you can definitely check out our main website. You'll find plenty of information on the site itself. And we have a free 30-day trial. So if you wanted to kind of kick off a trial, you can do that. We have a ton of awesome integrations to kind of integrate with your ecosystem of applications that you use. So the VYPER integration is a perfect example of that.
Mm-hmm.
In terms of learning more about email marketing, I would definitely recommend checking out our newsletter. So we send a weekly newsletter. So if you're really interested in kind of becoming a pro email marketer, right, and really doubling down on email as a growth channel for your business, head on over to blog.aweber.com. You'll check out the AWeber blog and you'll see a sign-up form for our weekly newsletter. And we curate a lot of great content. We do a lot of video content. We have about 50 podcast episodes. So if you're an audio listener, we have an archive of podcast episodes to check out. And yeah, like we're just constantly trying to continue to provide some best in class education for people who really want to take email to the next level.
Yeah, I highly recommend those podcasts. They are really good, actually, and super convenient. You can listen to them driving, commuting, gym, whatever you're doing. But yeah, Tom, thank you so much for your time. And, I'm sure we'll chat soon about some more email marketing stuff. But yeah, appreciate you spending, your afternoon talking to us about email marketing.
Thank you. Yeah, this has been awesome. I appreciate it. And we'll talk soon.
All right. See you, Tom. Bye.
Cool.